This video will be a note-for-note breakdown of the guitar solo that enters at roughly 1 minute and 42 seconds. The supporting rhythm guitar and bass parts will also be covered by this video. The tab sheet for each part will briefly be displayed after its respective analysis. A final demo of all parts combined will be featured near the end of the video. As a bonus, a quick look at the outro will close out the video. The tuning used in this video and on the record is standard E and 440 wavelength calibration. This solo is going to be 8 measures long. We're going to begin by placing the first finger on the A string at the 5th fret and the third finger on the G string at the 7th fret. This entire solo is going to be based on octaves. They're going to work off of these two strings. We're just going to shift them up and down the neck. We're going to start out using an 8th note feel. Okay? On 1, we're going to pick this octave down and we're going to slide both notes up a full step in pitch so the first finger is on the 7th fret. The first note's actually going to be a 16th note and we're sliding up on the E beat. Okay, we're not going to pick that, we're just sliding up. The sound is produced by the left hand. And once we get there, we're going to pick this upwards on the and beat. So these first 3 notes are going to be like this, counted 1 and, just like that, 1 and. Okay, now we're going to finish up the first measure by playing 6 more 8th notes in this position. What we're going to do is alternate pick. We're going to pick down on the down beats, 2, 3, and 4, and up on the and beats. And what I'm going to do, you'll see me bouncing my fingers like this. What we're doing is playing those notes staccato. Okay, what you'll see in the tab sheet is a dot below those chords to indicate staccato. Instead of playing it smooth like this, which is legato, we're going to bounce and play it choppy like this. So with the 4-count lead in, I'm just going to play the first measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And now we have reached the second measure. We're going to play this exactly like the first measure, right up until the and beat after 3. So we have this, 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, at this point we're going to shift up another step in pitch. So the first finger is now on the 9th fret. We'll pick this up and let that ring out as an 8th note. And on 4, we're going to pick this down and let it ring out as a quarter note to finish up the measure. So with the 4-count lead in, this is what the second measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, notice that last note, we're playing it legato. So with the 4-count lead in, let's run through the first 2 measures in sequence one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The third and fourth measures will actually be a repeat of the first 2 measures. So let's just do the first 4 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And now we've reached the 5th measure. Okay, our first finger should be on the A string at the 9th fret. What we're going to do is we're going to play these next 2 measures exactly like we played the first 2 measures. What's different is the notes, but the feel, the count, and the picking pattern will be exactly the same. We'll slide from here to the 11th fret. And on the next measure, we'll go from here to the 12th fret. I'm just going to give you a 4-count lead in and play the 5th and 6th measures in sequence, just so you can see what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And now we've reached the 7th measure. Okay, your fingers should be in this position where the first finger is on the A string at the 12th fret. The feel of the music is going to change from an 8th note feel to a 16th note feel. For these last two measures, we're going to follow a specific pattern on each change of the octave. Okay, we're going to pick down on one, slide to the next note, whether it's up or down in pitch, on the E beat, and we're going to play two more 16th notes. Once we get to that, pick down and up, count it and up. So in the 7th measure, we're going to slide up to the 14th fret to begin the measure. Okay, on 2, we're going to slide from there to the 16th fret. On 3, we're going to go back down to the 14th fret. And on 4, we'll go back to the 12th fret. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the 7th measure with the 4-count lead in, and you'll see what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... And notice we're also playing legato here. There's no more staccato. And now we've reached the 8th measure. We're going to resume playing with the feel, the count, and the picking pattern that was used in the previous measure. We ended that measure with the first finger on the A string at the 12th fret. On E beat after 1, we're going to slide down a half a step so the first finger is on the 11th fret. On the E beat after 2, we're going to slide back up a half a step. On the E beat after 3, we're going to slide back down a half a step. And on the E beat after 4, we'll close up the solo by sliding down a step so that first finger is on the A string at the 9th fret. So with the 4-count lead in, this is what the 8th measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... Now with the 4-count lead in, let's do the 7th and 8th measures in sequence just one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... Let's run through all 8 measures in sequence just one time. I won't count aloud as I play, I'll just give you the 4-count lead in. Also, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the guitar 3 part in the 3rd chorus just to show how this exits the solo. 1, 2, 3, 4. What we have here is actually 8 measures. We're going to play the first 2 measures twice, as indicated by the repeat sign at the beginning of the first and second measure, highlighted in yellow. Then we'll skip down to what appears to be the 3rd measure on paper. That's actually the 5th. And we'll play the rest of the measures in sequence. Guitar 2 is going to be a 2-measure long riff pattern that will be played 4 times. In short, we have 8 measures. We're going to begin the first measure by playing an open E5 power chord by barring the A and D strings at the 2nd fret. The first 2 notes are 8th notes, count 1 in, pick down both beats. On 2, we encounter a dotted 8th note rest, which basically is 3/8 of a measure of rest. On the final 16th note after 2 in that quarter, we're going to play a ghost note by picking the lower pitched 3 strings upwards. Okay, this is going to be a clicking noise. What I'm doing is using the side of my hand, my right hand that is, and releasing the pressure with that finger on the fretboard just to produce a click like this. Okay, on 3 and we're going to play that open E5 power chord again with 2 more downstrokes. On 4, we have another dotted 8th note rest. We'll finish up the first measure with another ghost note picked upwards on the final 16th note of the measure. So with the 4-count lead in, this is what the first measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, up. Okay, now we get to the second measure. We're going to begin the exact same way. 2 eighth notes counted one hand with downstrokes on the E5 power chord. On 2, we encounter the exact same dotted eighth note rest. On the beat after 2, we're going to play the same ghost note picked upwards. On 3, we're going to play one more eighth note picked down on that E5 power chord. Now on the and beat right after 3, this is where we're going to differ. We're going to play the B5 power chord. And on 4, we're going to go to the open A5 power chord, pick this down, and let it ring out as a quarter note. So with a 4-count lead in, this is what our 2-measure pattern is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. We're going to do that 4 times. So with the 4-count lead in, let's run through all 8 measures in sequence just one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 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 4. What we have here is 8 measures. What we're going to do is play these 2 measures 4 times as indicated by the repeat sign at the beginning of the first measure and at the end of the second measure, highlighted in yellow. Also notice the X's on the beat after 2 on both measures. What that is a ghost note. The bass guitar is pretty much going to double the rhythm guitar part almost note for note, but we're going to do a couple things slightly different. Remember, we're following a 2-measure long riff pattern that gets repeated 4 times. On the beats after 2 and 4, what that is the final 16th note of those respective quarters of the measures. We're going to pick the open E string upwards there as a 16th note instead of picking a ghost note like we did on the guitar. Also, on the and beat after 1 and 3, we're going to pick the note upwards instead of down. It wouldn't be wrong to pick it down. What we're doing is we're mixing 16th notes with 8th notes. When you're playing 16th notes, the down beats and the and beats are always picked down, while the E and beats are picked up. So when you mix them like that, the and beat, when you're doing an 8th note, can go either way. Also, when we finish up the measure, when we go to the open A string, instead of playing a quarter note in that last pass, we're going to accent with the fill on the snare by playing 4 16th notes on the open A string, counted 4 and a pick down, up, down, up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a 4-count lead in and play the bass part one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 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 4 and up. What we have here is actually 8 measures. What appears to be the 4th measure left empty, we're just going to ignore that. We're going to play the first 2 measures 3 times as indicated by the repeat sign at the beginning of the first measure and at the end of the second measure, highlighted in yellow. What the second measure is the 1st through 3rd endings is indicated by the highlighted 1 through 3 above it and the bar above that. On the 4th pass through, we'll play the first measure and skip directly to the 4th ending, which appears to be the 3rd measure on paper with the number 4 highlighted above it. This look at the outro assumes that you have already watched the first video of this two-part series. The bass and drums will fill together at 2 minutes and 18 seconds, which signals this change in the music. It works off of the same 4-measure chord pattern, but drives with a different feel. The guitar 1 lead part that was present in the first 2 choruses will also resume in this segment. Guitar 2 is going to drive with the bass guitar. What we're going to do is use steady 8th notes and alternate picking. In the first measure, we're going to work off of the open E5 power chord. On the second measure, we're going to go to the F-sharp 5 power chord. On the third measure, we're going to go to the A5 power chord, open A5 that is. And on the last measure, we're going to play quarter notes just like guitar 3 did in the chorus, using those same chords. We're going to bar the E and A strings at the 2nd fret with that 1st finger. We're going to place the 3rd finger on the D string at the 4th fret and the pinky on the G string at the 4th fret. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to give you a 4-count lead in and play all 8 measures in sequence on guitar 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. What we have here is 8 measures. We're just going to play these twice, as indicated by the repeat sign at the beginning of the first measure and at the end of the 4th measure, highlighted in yellow. The outro begins at exactly 2 minutes and 19 seconds. The bass guitar is pretty much going to drive with guitar 2. The first 3 measures of the pattern we're pretty much going to play note for note with steady alternate picking. The fills at the end of the 4th and 8th measures are going to be exactly the same as they were in the first 2 choruses. So with the 4-count lead in, I'm just going to play through these 8 measures one time, and you should be able to figure it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 again. What we have here is actually 8 measures. We're just going to ignore what appears to be the 6th measure left blank. We're going to play the first 4 measures right up until we reach the yellow highlight at the end of the 4th measure. That's a repeat sign. That'll send us back to the repeat sign at the beginning of the 1st measure. Also notice above the 4th measure, the yellow highlight 1, that's the 1st ending. On the 2nd pass through, we'll play the first 3 measures, then we'll skip the 1st ending and go directly to the 2nd ending, which appears to be the 5th measure on paper. It's actually the 8th measure.